Hello, Austin here, back again. I was looking through the channel's history, and I came to a terrible realization. It has been a long time since I have talked about plush toys. Like a really long time. You go to that playlist, there's videos from 2 years ago, and that is a crime, because for a channel dedicated to collecting furry, I really should talk about the collectibles that are actually furry.
It's brimstone.
Yeah, right, brimstone.
Now these are my top 10 furry plush with a big asterisk that I own. I'm sure there are many other amazing furry plush that fit this list, but I'm only going to do ones I have. So if you know any great plush of furry characters, please put them in the comments and let me know what you need to collect. Also disqualified from this list are going to be any handmade or artisan plush, commissioned furry plush, as I have quite a few of those, and those would easily take my top 10 spots. It's actually a separate video I should do, because there's a big cottage industry of handmade furry plush. So without further ado, let's count it down with number 10. So the first plush on my list is Captain Amelia from Treasure Planet, an awesome character that does not translate that well to plush form. I really only have her on the list because I'm just happy this plush even exists. Who remembers the awesome cat Captain Feline from the 2003 film Treasure Planet? Now, she's got her cat-like face, her little cat nose, and ears, so they definitely got those furry features in there. And they even beautifully detailed her ornate captain's uniform, and even her knee-high stockings take form, although they look a little flabby and sad, to be truthful. This plush still has its original tag on it, as many of these do. This did not sell well, neither did the other, equally as hideous Treasure Planet plush. I feel like this plush was made more out of corporate mandate than an actual artist's interpretation of the character. Disney Store has had a long history of making incredible furry plush, or just Disney plush in general, that were awesome. And I'm sure they were told that Treasure Planet was going to be this big hit, so they had to whip up some plush. Unfortunately for them, Treasure Planet in aesthetic is less Disney-like, and more so resembles a 1980s sci-fi novel cover, so not an easy task adapting the cat pirate feline to plush form. But hey, they did it, and I do like to look at this plush, and it makes me think of a great movie, so I can't complain there. Okay, moving on to number 9 on the list, Blaze the Cat from Sonic 06. So Blaze has long been one of those Sonic fan characters that just barely makes the mark of merchandise. It feels like every time they're about to include this character in a toy line or on a piece of merchandise, she just barely gets cut, cancelled, removed. For whatever reason, Blaze just never had the love that Sonic's other friends got. Probably because she dies at the end of the game she's featured in, spoiler alert for a near 20-year-old game, and kids don't buy toys of dead characters. Now, they did resurrect Blaze the Cat, in quotation marks, through a variety of strange canonical loopholes, but truth be told, she's barely been seen in the games since the Sonic Nintendo DS games, so for whatever reason, Blaze just hasn't had her time in the spotlight. But we did get this nice plush from GE. Now, GE, I believe that stands for Great Eastern Entertainment. They make these collector Sonic plush that are not sold at retail, but through an online fan club service. The plushes can be quite expensive, $30 to $40 a piece, and they range from all of the Sonic Continuum. They've made all the characters from the comic books, they've made stuff from very obscure video games, so they really do have it all when it comes to character selection, although no Sally Acorn, maybe someday. But, of course, they were able to give us Blaze because, again, they're committed to that great character choice. This would be higher on the list, but just like Captain Amelia, Blaze has a very complicated design with a very ornate outfit that I just don't think translates well to plush form. It's unusual because Sonic characters usually translate fantastic to plush. There are so many great Sonic plush. And if you look at just Blaze's head, they did a great job. They got her ponytail. She's kind of got these dreads that she's tied up into a knot here, and each strand of the ponytail is its own piece. We've got her long, beautiful eyelashes and her bright yellow eyes. They even gave her kind of a unhappy face, since Blaze is in some pretty unfortunate situations in the games. But then we move down to the body, and this is where things get really sad. Like Captain Amelia, we have some flabby legs and hands. I get putting an armature in this type of thing would have made the plush really expensive. But Blaze is a tall girl, and she's got a very tall figure. And I just don't think that translated into plush form. Also, her beautiful ornate princess gown is kind of reduced to this cheap, tacky fabric that truthfully feels like paper. And what may be the worst offender of this plush is her lack of neck. Where is Blaze's neck? You can peek a little under the head and see that they did actually stitch her choker, her gold choker here. But you can barely see it because, again, she has no neck. That is such an odd decision. It's not bad. She does have a cute hang tag, and if you hang her up like this, you know, she displays fine, and that lack of neck isn't as noticeable. So, yeah, Blaze the cat. There she is. Okay, I can't count. I'm losing my mind. Number 8 on the furry plush list. From here, it's pretty much all solid plush, and that's Maid Marian from the Disney Store. So this is a much better example of a Disney Store plush, a near-perfect, near-flawless recreation of the 1971 beautiful fox princess, Maid Marian. She may be Disney's most underrated princess, and I find it hard to believe that she was never included in the Disney Store line of fashion princess dolls that went on for 2 decades, and even included some, deeper cuts like Meg and Esmeralda, but poor Maid Marian never got her due. But as a plush doll, she did get this gorgeous doll. I believe this came out in the early 2000s. Now, it's important to remember there were 2 Maid Marian plush released in the early 2000s. One of them has her headdress permanently attached to her head and kind of has bigger, fluffier cheeks. The second one has a removable headdress that, as you can see, is lost. I bought this secondhand, didn't have the headdress. Still displays great, I don't care. And the second release has a more streamlined design that I think is more fox-like and better captures the character. I don't know, something about that first release. She kind of looks like Todd from Fox and the Hound dressed in drag. It just doesn't work. But this second one is solid. She has her full body intact. Unlike Amelia, they got the anatomy down. As a matter of fact, we're going to lift the dress here, get a little R-rated, and show you that she has beautifully detailed bloomers, her pink slip-on shoes, and fuzzy legs and ankles. Even her tail is long, ornate, and beautiful like the character. It's kind of a shame the tail is not more visible, given the restrictions of the outfit, but, that's what you work with. It is a screen-accurate Maid Marian. I really like when they make these dolls accurate to the movie 100%. And Maid Marian never had a lot of merchandise. You can't go wrong with this plush. The only thing is, she's a little tough to find and can go for quite a bit on the secondary market. Oh, and also, I recommend getting a doll stand with this one. It helps her display the dress a little better. So, there you go. Maid Marian. Alright, it's time for number 7 on our furry plush collecting list. I had a really hard time narrowing down one Ewok because I have literally 50 Ewok plush. They're kind of quintessentially classic furry creatures, but they're not super anthropomorphic. They're very teddy bear-like. Some of the Ewok plush are just straight up teddy bears. However, one that I think really excels in terms of Anthro design is, oddly enough, the Build-A-Bear Wicket. Now, not the regular Build-A-Bear Wicket, that one is kind of a big teddy bear, but the Wicket Buddy. So if you bought the Princess Leia Build-A-Bear, this was available as an add-on plush. I believe he was like $10 or $12, and I don't even think he goes for much more than that on the secondary market. I think he came out about 10 years ago or so. But this is just such a lovely interpretation of the Wicket character. They made him different from all the other Wicket plush, and I appreciate that. This is the opposite of Maid Marian. This is a case where they have made so many movie-accurate Wicket plush. So many Ewok plush that look just like the movie. I actually appreciate one that looks a little different, that is an artist's interpretation of the character. So in this case, Wicket has been made much more Anthro, given lankier arms, legs, and limbs. They just make him look more furry-like. Now, I think this plush may have been partly inspired by the 2013 comic, Ewoks Shadows of Endor. That comic was seemingly an attempt at furryizing Star Wars. Again, that's another video tangent to go on, but the artist that drew that did an amazing job of reinterpreting the Ewoks as traditional furry designs, and this Wicket plush comes really, really close to that style. So close that I think this plush may have been made as some sort of tie-in, given they were released pretty close to each other. But as it is, it's a very unique Ewok plush, and amongst all my Ewoks, he just stands out. He's also just super soft, like, this is a soft plush. So there you go, Yub Nub. Alright, number 6 on the list. I had to pick one plush from the Great Wolf Lodge, because this line of plush is a favorite of mine. If you don't know what the Great Wolf Lodge is, they're a chain of hotels and resorts across North America that are basically indoor water parks that feature anthropomorphic and furry characters as their mascots. And the plush they make are really, really amazing. I have most of them, and they're some of the nicest plush out there. So this is the squirrel, Sammy, and as you can see, they gave her possibly the most impressive squirrel tail I have ever seen on a plush toy. They really knock it out of the park with these. I could have picked any of the characters, but I went with Sammy just because I love her squirrel design a lot. I think she looks a little Sally Acorn, she looks a little Venus from Mount Olympus. Now there's a deep cut for you hardcore furries. And she doesn't come with this red cape, but I just thought it looked great on her. Maybe she's channeling her inner Mrs. Brisby or something, but it just kind of made her look like she was straight out of Redwall, like some sort of fantasy squirrel character. She definitely looks like if you were going on a side quest, you'd want to take her as your companion. But I just love her design so much. Again, she looks so inspired, very Chuck Jones-like with the design. I'm getting Rikki Tikki Tavi, another furry deep cut. She reminds me a lot of furry characters that have not gotten plush toys, so I can sort of use her as my stand-in for all of those characters that have not gotten plush. Also, I'm just a sucker for rodents. Squirrels, possums, raccoons. I love those types of character designs. And you don't often see them as female characters. For whatever reason, I guess a lot of people see rodents as kind of gross. So, you know, we see Splinter as a rat, right, in Ninja Turtles, all sorts of kind of masculine rodent creatures. But we never see feminine rodents, and I think Sammy is great. I mean, they definitely gave her hips, so she's very feminine in design. Great Wolf Lodge always makes great plush. They always come through. You know, that tail is impressive. So this is just such a nice, soft plush. Coming in at number 5, we have a very different type of mascot. Remember how Sammy the squirrel was all cutesy? Well, this plush is all sexy and hooker-like. Wow. Look at this disturbing plush. Is this freaky or what? It's like a big, feminine, chunky cow lady. what's not to love? So this bizarre, perverted creation was from the minor league baseball, and her name is Belle The Ballad. And I did a little bit of research on this character. She comes from the early 2000s at the height of the Bratz mania and kind of the diva, you know, who remembers Jersey Shore and all that weirdness. And the MLB was trying to create a merchandisable female character, one that would be curvy and diva-like, that everyone would want to buy dolls and posters of. And what they came up with was a mascot for, I believe, the New York Buffaloes, and they gave us this lovely cow. So she kind of looks like a female minotaur, and as an appreciator of minotaurs and bulls and cows, I absolutely love this plush so much. And let me tell you why. They made her so feminine. They gave her big lashes and big lips. Like, look at those lips. But they did make her a bull, which, again, is a creature we typically associate with masculinity. So often do we see male bull characters. You never see female bulls. She isn't a cow, she's a bull, and they even gave her horns, which is very rare for a female Anthro bull design to keep the horns. They usually knock those off, as again, they're seen as a very masculine thing. So they did make a very unique character. The plush itself is really, really fantastic for a minor league baseball toy. Not only do we have the head that's nicely detailed, we have her ponytail that's very long, kind of like that squirrel tail. You get a lot here, and it's soft and textured a little differently. And then her outfit, where do we begin on this outfit? She definitely looks like someone you'd see at a biker bar. She's got a crop top on, but the crop top is made of like this spandex swimsuit material. It's kind of hard to explain, but it's very silky. So again, different material. And the skirt is kind of pleated, and it seems to barely stay on her, which tells us a lot about the character. But again, nice texture on the skirt. And finally, her boots are made of leather with metal buckles on them. So that's a lot of detail for something you would just buy at a minor league baseball game. It tells me that the higher-ups really had some faith in this character, and they probably sold this plush at a loss just to make the character more well-known. Now, Belle did not last long. I could take a couple guesses why. I'm sure more than a few parent groups had issue with this character. A lot of kids go to baseball games and would see this plush and want it. And let me ask you, would you buy this plush for a kid? Because she looks very R-rated for a children's toy. But I'm happy she exists. I love her. And I mean, she is a diva. She is an icon. Giving us some body positivity. She's definitely chunky. A little plus-sized, but not afraid to show some skin. So, I bet you weren't expecting this one, and I bet you've never even heard of this one. But if you're like me and you like Anthro and Furry designs, she adds a lot of variety to all of the vixens and wolves and traditional Furry designs. I mean, come on, a female cow plush. How often do you see something like this? And she makes for a perfect mate for any minotaur, just saying. So, that's Belle. She's great. What's not to love? Number 4, we're getting near the end here, and it's something that was a holy grail of mine for a long time that I never thought I would own, and that is the cow toy Sonic the Hedgehog plush. This is one of the rarest Sonic plush out there, released in the early 90s in America only. What makes this Sonic plush so great from the others is that he's not based off the video game, but instead based off the Deke animation cartoon, better known as Sad I Am among its fan base. I like the Sonic games, but I love the TV show. I think the Sonic TV show is the underrated kind of lost classic 90s cartoon. It's as good as all the Disney afternoon shows, but it didn't get a lot of merchandise because nearly all the Sonic stuff was imported from Japan and based on the video games. If you wanted to make something based off the DiC animation cartoon, that was a separate license. You would have to go through DiC and get their character designs. Well, for whatever reason, a company named Caltoy did get the license to the Sonic TV show and made beautiful plush that are very rare. They made a large Sonic and a large Tails that talk, and they made a small Sonic and a small Tails. Now, the smaller Sonic is actually the rarer of the two, because he's in scale with modern Sonic plush. And if you have a display of Sonic plush, like those GE ones I mentioned, this Sonic scales perfectly with them, and is a very, very unique plush. Just looking at him, we can see some details that set him apart from the video game Sonic design. His eyes have white dots in them, he's got a small button nose, a smirk to the side of his mouth, and most importantly, his quills. Only cartoon Sonic interprets the quills in such a way that they are seen as hair rather than an extension from the body. So as regular Sonic has a head that sort of slopes this way, the cartoon Sonic has a spiky mohawk, which kind of gave him that attitude of the era, right? Very 1990s. And he's got these, felt quills, and that's all they are, is still stitched felt. And truth be told, this is a pretty fragile plush. I almost feel like this felt is gonna rip or tear off just touching it right now. I cannot believe I found this. I found it at a flea market for $1, and I bought it. I thought at first it may have been a bootleg, as a lot of rare Sonic plush do have bootlegs, but upon further research, there are no known bootlegs of the Caltoy Sonic plush, and the age on this plush mean it is the genuine article. And man, do I just love this guy. His wings above his shoes are separate pieces that can be moved about. Even his shoes, they have that stripe down the side. That's a lot of detail for a character that at the time wasn't well known. This is before Sonic became the billion-dollar property. I'm sure this plush was made when the TV show was in development, and they just didn't know if it was gonna work or not. So, super, super happy to have this guy. I think this guy is essential to anyone that collects 1990s TV show plush. If you have Chip and Dale on your shelf, maybe if you have some of the DuckTales plush, you really need this guy right there, because the Sonic cartoon is fantastic. It's very separated from the video game. You have to look at it as its own thing. And as a 1990s cartoon that was kind of riding the high of environmentalism, Sonic saving the environment, truthfully, it's really, really good. It's got a lot of sword and sorcery and magic elements that you don't see in Sonic today that make it very unique. Maybe one day they'll make a matching Princess Sally to go with him. But until then, he'll just sit right there on the shelf and make me so happy. Number 3 is Coco Bandicoot from Kid Robot. This plush was released as a Target exclusive when they re-released the Crash Bandicoot games about 5 years ago or so. And man, this is an amazing plush. This may be the best interpretation of Coco Bandicoot they have ever made. For whatever reason, licensors just seem to have a hard time getting a good likeness on Coco. You look at some of those figures and they just look completely terrible. I think it's because Coco's gone through a lot of design changes. Well, I think Kid Robot did an amazing job of finding a balance, but without the kind of big goofy eyes of the original, and kind of tones it down more to what we'd see in the later Crash Bandicoot games, like Mind Over Mutant, or whatever they were called. Truthfully, I don't remember those games very well, but I did like the design of Coco, and I think Kid Robot really, really nailed it. They kind of took all the Cocos and just put it in a trash compactor, hit the button, and this is what you get. So it's not super accurate to the original PS1 design. Again, the face and eyes are a little off, but you can definitely tell it's Coco Bandicoot, and I think the changes they made are for the better. Now, as for the plush itself, she's very soft. She's got this nice uniform design. Her clothing is just printed on. You'll notice there's no, the overalls are not a separate piece. There's no button. everything is just screen printed. And usually I would go, that's just cheap and lame. But Kid Robot makes urban designer toys. They are the masters of taking simple design, like taking a complex outfit and making it down to just its simple line work. And what they did here is nothing short of incredible. They took her complicated overalls and uniform from that original PlayStation game, and they narrowed it down to just colors and shapes. It almost looks like an ocean wave with a sun. Like, really, really awesome design work. I don't know who designed this plush, but they must be a seasoned graphic designer, because it would have been easy to just cheap screen print some overalls. But if you look, they actually put some design work into this. The way the overalls flow and the colors match, it just works from a design aesthetic. It just makes me so happy. I don't know, it's just a very pleasing design. And then the head, this may be one of the prettiest female furry head designs I've ever seen put to plush. Again, it's not exactly accurate, and truth be told, she looks a little more like Tanya than Coco, Crash's original girlfriend, but I can't complain, that face is just so good. This legitimately looks as good as some furry plush commissions I've seen that go for hundreds of dollars. They're just such a nice, friendly female furry face. To top it all off, we have our signature flower, which is a piece of felt, but unlike that Sonic plush, it's really tightly sewn on there, so I don't feel like it's gonna pop off. And then finally, we have her signature strand of hair. And depending on which Crash game you're playing, Coco either has this hair in kind of a coif, or she goes for a more demure appearance and puts it in front of her eyes. Well, because it's a piece of felt, again, brilliant melding of the Coco designs, you could actually kind of customize this and display Coco how you'd like. So if you want the kind of hair design where you can see the full face, I prefer it with it down. I just think that looks great. But again, customization, what's to complain? And then she's got her big tuft of hair. The only kind of sloppiness is if you look at the hair here, it's kind of just this big piece. And there's a couple of coursed angles where it kind of looks like she has cooked egg on the back of her head. Like, what is that supposed to be? But I get it. It's not a traditional plush company. Kid Robot makes urban designer dolls. And man, I bet as a plastic figure, this design would have looked awesome. I don't know why they didn't make a plastic version, but I think they did a really, really amazing job of translating Coco into plush form. As it is right now, this is the definitive Coco plush. Now, I know there's some new Coco items coming up. There's a big, controller holder where she holds the controller. There's the Rezalis action figures from the 90s that are spot on to the game design. Kind of got those big anime eyes. I don't have those. I'm sure they're great. But as it is, compared with, the Funko Pop and some of the new figures, the U2's one, this is the way to go. This is great. Now, I bought this at Target when it came out new. In the years since, she's actually become quite collectible. So this plush does go for a premium on the market, but she is worth it. I would say buy this now because I bet you in a decade or so, this will be one of the most highly sought after furry plush dolls. I think people overlooked this plush and failed to recognize how incredible she is. Because that's what this plush is. Incredible. Number two, getting near the end, we have what I consider to be the most accurate furry plush ever made. And that is the original Judy Hopps from the Disney Store that came out with Zootopia's release in 2016. They got it right the first time. I think every Judy Hopps plush that has come after this has been a direct downgrade. This is a plush. This is how you translate a complicated 3D character into a cheap toy design. I cannot believe this plush was only, $15 when it came out? This is a nice item. This is something you'd pay $60, $70 for. Let's start with the head. Absolutely perfect. They got all of Judy's features down. Her little button nose, her big giant eyes, and her floppy ears. You could even tie them up in a bun if you want to make her go for that Lola Bunny look. Absolutely incredible. any later version of Judy Hopps, and you can look this up, all the later Judys simplified the face significantly. They give her little button eyes, they make her stylized. They just never made a movie-accurate Judy like this one. Moving on to the outfit, everything about this is an absolute showstopper, and it all comes down to the different materials. Her tactical vest top is made of a pleather-like material, while her undershirt is a mesh-like material. Her pants are kind of a soft, flat texture, but the knee pads are embroidered on top, giving them a very unique texture. And finally, her shoes are made of the same pleather as the top. What it creates are essentially 3 different materials mixing that make it look like a real police uniform. Or at least as real of a uniform in Zootopia would be, because their cop outfit design is very unique. It's more of a science fiction kind of combat outfit than a police uniform. But if you watch the movie and pay attention, you can see that Judy's outfit, it's very form-fitting. It almost looks like a wetsuit. Nice fit for her, I won't lie. But this plush did a great job of capturing that texture. Again, like with the bull plush, the texture they used here almost feels like something that would be used for a swimsuit. It's got kind of a checker pattern here. It doesn't capture well on the camera. And again, it's all about feeling. You have to hold this plush in person to understand the different textures coming at play here. But it really feels like a multi-piece outfit that Judy would put on for different terrain. It's just nothing short of incredible. And if they tried to make this plush today, I guarantee you they would cheap out and just do one cheap outfit. Or even worse, they wouldn't make her fully anatomically correct. What I mean by that is if you look at Judy plush now, they've all got big heads and small bodies. They really emphasize the bunny ears and the big goofy bunny head and a tiny body. This is one of the only Judy plush made that has her proportionate, where she's got, she has a big head, but it's not huge. It's about the same size as her feet. Judy got big feet, she's a bunny. So, you got the big feet and the big head with the correct proportions on the body. And for movie accuracy, that's really, really important. I don't mind the stylized attempts, but like I said with the Maid Marian, I'm not pleased until there's a movie-accurate version of the character. So, from the moment this plush was released, we could have as many stylized Judys as you need. Pop vinyls, Goofy Plus, Tsum Tsum, whatever, because they got it right the first time. This is the definitive Judy Hopps plush. This is the definitive Furry plush. I mean, if you're furry and don't have this in your collection, who are you, right? You gotta have this. She's got a little bunny tail. Even on the back, we've got details printed on. A lot of love was put into this plush. Made even more poignant by the fact that Zootopia was expected to bomb at the box office. I think a lot of people forget that, but Zootopia was not expected to make $1 billion. Bob Iger infamously said that it may be a sleeper hit. Yeah, they didn't have faith in this movie, and it shows in the merchandise. Still, Zootopia is under-merchandised. For $1 billion property, you'd think there would be hundreds of Judys to collect, but there just isn't. They've only made like 20 or so Judy plush after this one, and truth be told, none of the Judy plush they've made even compare to the awesomeness of this one. So this is the definitive Furry plush I own. I love this plush, and I love that it isn't expensive. It's an easy to get item. You still see these cheap on the secondary market. There's plenty of them to go around. It feels like it should go for a lot more. I'm honestly surprised this hasn't become rare, because the Disney store is long out of business, and you can't get this. And funnily enough, that cheap little Judy plush costs more than this one, so how about that? Alright, number 1 is the deluxe talking Puss in Boots from Shrek 2. Alright, so I'm totally cheating and going on nostalgia here. This was the first Furry plush I owned. I got this plush when I was 4 years old and loved it to death. It was a big Puss in Boots. It was a lot bigger back then, because I was a lot smaller. And he talks if you press his belly.
Who dares enter my room? You would be my friend? Elbow, I hate Mondays.
Yeah, he even says the amazing Garfield reference near the end of the movie. So, being my own nostalgia and love for Shrek, I had to go with good old Puss here. But also, I do think this is a great plush. Now, Puss in Boots has had plush that are better than this, but this one is very stylized and cartoony. And for a first plush of Puss in Boots, it's pretty good. Yeah, again, the colors aren't exact. The boots and the hat should be black, not brown. But I assume this plush was based on pre-production artwork, because it came out before the movie did. He does have his sword, which is stitched into his hand. And, 20 years later, the sword doesn't feel like it's gonna fall off. The whiskers, all still intact. The plume on the hat, again, it's just felt, but it's stitched on pretty nicely. So, for a 20-year-old toy made by Hasbro that is, let's be honest, not aimed at the collector's market, I'm surprised how much he's held up. This is not my original Puss in Boots. This was one I rebought. But still, I found him in a flea market, and I was surprised at the condition. And when I saw him laying there, it just made me so happy. Like, it brought back memories. I hadn't thought about this exact Puss in Boots plush in nearly 20 years. So, I really love this guy. Puss in Boots was my first furry character that I kind of aspired to be. Not my first furry crush. I'm not attracted to Puss in Boots, but I wanted to be Puss in Boots. I just thought he was so cool. Especially, the finale of the movie where he's dueling the castle guards. So, yeah. And in the years since, Puss in Boots has kind of elevated. Well, not kind of. He has been elevated from a comic relief of the Shrek franchise to his own furry character. We've had 2 Puss in Boots movies that you could say are definitively furry movies, especially Last Wish. I think as we get further and further out from Last Wish, people will realize that is one of the greatest animated movies of all time. I think Last Wish is right up there with Secret of Nim and All Dogs Go to Heaven as one of those furry greats. Just an amazing, amazing movie. And every time I watch it, I just want to collect more and more Puss in Boots. And there actually isn't as much as you'd think. Despite Shrek being merchandise to hell and high water, Puss in Boots does not have as much stuff as you'd like. When the original 2011 movie came out, they made a couple of plush. But when Last Wish came out last year, there was nothing. No new Puss in Boots stuff to buy. It's very depressing. And since the popularity of Last Wish has kind of caused a Puss in Boots and huge Shrek revival, Shrek is so popular right now, that has caused the secondary market for Shrek toys to skyrocket like nothing I've ever seen. Some of the Shrek plush are very, very expensive now. I cannot believe what they go for. This one is on the cheaper end of Puss in Boots plush. He's not as expensive as some of the collector ones, but finding one with a working sound box is going to be a little bit of a challenge. And I don't know if it's worth it to you as it is to me. Like, for me, had I not found this at a flea market, yeah, I probably would have paid $50 for this online, just to get that hit of nostalgia for a plush that I really, really loved growing up. But, if you're looking for movie accuracy, like with that Judy Hopps, obviously this is not the way to go. They've made better, more accurate Puss in Boots plush. But I think the stylization is really fun here. Like the Coco one, they've kind of taken the design elements of Puss in Boots and they've simplified them in such a way that still works for the design of the character. Like his stripes here, obviously they're not as prominent in the movie, and this kind of makes him look a little more tiger-like. But from a design perspective, I like it. And with the colors, everything being brown, not movie accurate at all. He's even missing those hits of red that go around his cape and hat. But the design is just so cohesive. He almost looks like if you're drawing art in Photoshop or Illustrator and you want the colors to all be consistent, what you do is you put like a solid color plate in front of the artwork so everything gets tinted. It looks like they put like a brown plate in front of this character, and everything just gets tinted in browns and oranges. Not movie accurate at all, but I don't mind it. I think it gives him a very fall-like. Like, I'd put this next to some pumpkins, and it would look really good. So there we have it, 10 of my favorite furry plush. I think we have a wide spectrum here, from video game characters to animated movie characters, Disney to DreamWorks, and movie accurate to stylized. Creating a plush character is not as easy as making an action figure. You don't just scan a 3D rendering, or, even interpreting 2D characters into 3D. It's difficult in action figure form, but I think even more so in plush form. When you're working with plush materials, you gotta make sure the character isn't bloated, but you also gotta make sure the character is still soft and basically not a statue. Something that a child could, buy at Disneyland and squeeze, but also something that would go on a collector's shelf. So it's really a balancing act between movie accuracy and stylization, and I think these plush kind of hit that stride perfectly. Now, for almost all these characters I reviewed, there are equally as bad plush of them. Remember, there's lots of Judy Hopps. Maid Marian, had that first attempt. Puss in Boots has had more movie-accurate versions, but it's kind of hitting a fine line, and also personal preference, You, the viewer, may prefer the other version of Puss in Boots or Maid Marian. But these are just my opinions, what I think are 10 plush that furries need to own. Now, unfortunately, all 10 I talked about seem to go for a premium on the aftermarket. I think the only cheap ones I talked about were Judy Hopps here and maybe this Ewok Wicket. The rest of them seem to go for a pretty penny online. And I think that has to do with just plush collecting becoming kind of a hot thing right now. Plush are really popular. I'm not the only YouTube channel that covers this type of thing. I do all of furry collecting, but there's lots of YouTube channels that just focus on plush collecting. So much so that plush collecting is kind of its own huge subculture that I've just barely dipped my toe into. If you think some action figures could go for copious amounts of money, look at plush. There are some really, really rare plush. I just know some, off basic knowledge, I know the Balto plush are really, really desirable. Every plush I showed today is from a thrift store or flea market. Would you believe that? So all you gotta do is just get out there and look. Look. Go to your flea markets, go to your thrift stores. You gotta dig through plush. I dug through a mountain of chewed up lame plush, and I found this Puss in Boots at the bottom. So the treasure's out there. You just gotta look for it. So what plush did I miss? What are your favorite plush? And are there any quintessential Anthro and Furry plush I didn't cover that I don't own? Let me know in the comments. In the meantime, I'll just be squeezing these little guys and sleeping well. That's all for today, and remember,
No problema, boss.
creating plush. There goes Dracula.
The art of creating plush.